Once again, good morning and welcome to today's CAS webinar, Conducting Circles Virtually, Restorative Work in Uncertain Times. My name is Rosie O'Brien Boytek and I'm the Assistant Executive Director for the Connecticut Association of Schools. During the past several months, members of our CAS boards and committees have discussed wanting to learn more about how to use and facilitate restorative practices such as circles, building and restoring relationships, and other community building activities during remote and hybrid educational activities, situations, and events. We're all very excited today to be able to have one of Connecticut's most respected educational consultants, Dr. Ann Freiberg, speak with us on this subject today. Unfortunately, Pat Saccone will not be able to join us today, but you will be in great hands with Joanne. I will introduce her to you in a minute, but first I want to thank our corporate partners, Jostens, Horace Mann, Liberty Bank, the Connecticut Army National Guard, and Pullman and Comley for helping to make this webinar possible. We thank them for their continuing support of CAS professional development webinars for all of our principals and educators in Connecticut. Again, we're very excited about this webinar and glad that you're joining us today. As a reminder, the session will be recorded and posted on the CAS website so you can view it later and share it with your colleagues as well as your faculty and staff. Please use the chat feature as a way to stay actively engaged in the learning during the session and to let us know if you have any technical issues, as we will be monitoring the chat. In addition, please use the Q&A feature to ask questions, and we will be also monitoring the Q&A and we'll do our best to answer your questions during this webinar. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today, Dr. Ann Freiberg. Dr. Freiberg and Pat Saccone, who I said could not be here with us today, are co-founding partners of the School Climate Consultants, LLC. They're dedicated to assisting schools, districts, and community-based organizations in creating safe and productive learning environments. Dr. Ann Freiberg is a lifelong educator focusing on a wide arena of bullying, improving school climate, restorative practices, and character education. She's worked as a classroom teacher and as a teacher educator and has held faculty appointments at a number of universities, including Central Connecticut State University, Eastern Connecticut State University, the University of Hartford, and the University of Connecticut. Joanne holds a PhD in philosophy of education from Ohio State University, and her areas of academic teaching and research include moral and character education, educational studies, professional ethics, and multicultural education. She currently serves as co-chair of the National School Climate Council and is on the Connecticut statewide task force on sportsmanship. She has served on a statewide task force on bullying, serves on as an educational consultant in a variety of settings, both in Connecticut and nationally. Joanne provides a wide range of professional development and educational content to many groups and organizations throughout the country. We always learn so much from you, Joanne, and greatly appreciate having you here with us today. Welcome, Joanne.
Thank you, Rosie. You're too kind. I hope today, and let me just say that I have always want to have full disclosure here. I'm not smart enough to make anything up. So I really appreciate when people challenge and ask questions and so on. And I would be more than happy to be interrupted. So if you do have a question, throw it into the Q&A and Rosie will interrupt me so that I can answer any questions. I will say that we are in tough times right now. And I'm going to share with you strategies to use circles virtually, but also I'm hopeful that you will think about this not only for the moment in time that we have, but afterwards. So you can push this, but I'm thinking about both kinds as I share this with you. So we're going to talk today about circles in general and the spirit of circles, as well as how we conduct them. I'm going to give you lots and lots of examples, and I really look forward to wherever you are on this journey to helping people going forward. All of my contact information is on the end of the slides, and I just appreciate being here. So what I like to do when I start talking about circles is to share with you why we do them. And for those of you who have been in any of my in-person trainings, you know that I use an awful lot of chart paper, and sometimes people think I only take pictures of chart paper, which is not true. I love to take pictures. And this one was taken when Pat and I were actually on a national, we were in St. Louis and we were doing some PD there. And this is a beautiful little area that off to the right, you can't see it, is the old capital of Missouri. It's now a museum and you can tour it, but you can see the lovely shaded area that they've made over into a destination for children to come for day camp and field trips and so on. You can see a little playhouse. There are some gardens in the back and craft tables and cars just beyond the fence. And that just beyond the cars is the Missouri River, where the Conestoga wagons moved west. But right in the middle of this beautiful area is a campfire. And if you think about it, people have been gathered together in circles since before we were people, to get warm, to communicate, to solve problems, to eat, virtually any kind of reason. We gathered together in circles. So it's a very old configuration. And unfortunately, historically in schools, we haven't used it to the extent that we could or we should. And one of the main reasons why circles are so important in educational settings is that only about 7% of communication is actually with the words themselves. The rest is with body language and eye contact and voice, the tone, volume, and pitch. So when we're in circles, it's much more likely to have better communication and by extension, better learning. So here we are in the time of COVID. And even though we're getting toward the end, we think, we may not be able to conduct circles exclusively face-to-face, but it's important to keep in mind why circles are important and to keep their spirit alive, even if we have to remain physically distanced. Because, I cringe a little bit when somebody says that we need to keep social distance, because actually it's the physical distance that we need to create. We need to continue to be highly socially connected. So why circles? Well, circles need to be conducted deliberately and thoughtfully with the following goals in mind. First of all, equality. Everyone literally has equal seating. There is sort of a double-edged sword as well. There's safety and trust when you're in a circle because you can see everyone, but that also makes you vulnerable because you can see everyone. There's an inherent responsibility because everyone plays a role, even if that is to pass. It reminds you as an educator, some of us love to talk, to facilitate rather than to lecture. It builds connections because everyone hears everyone else. I'm sure you've been in the situation far more times than I, where I've stepped into the back of a classroom, everybody's in rows, and the one at the front of the row raises his or her hand to answer a question, has a very soft voice. Maybe that's why they're at the front of the line in the rows, and nobody behind can hear. So it's very important that we increase hearing, communication, and so on. It feels shared and owned by everybody, and it's inclusive because each and every member belongs and has a place, no matter their circumstances, their status, their demographics, and so on. But as we go forward, I want you to consider that circles are not special events. They're a way of doing business, of accomplishing the things we need to get done in the classroom or in the office or wherever, whether that's getting to know one another, becoming culturally and racially aware, discussing an academic topic, or responding to behavior or relational issues. Just like lecture, video, small group discussions, circles are just another possible delivery made for all of us. So one of the things that's very important about using circles is, and working restoratively, there's a lot of myth. Let me back up for 1 second before we move forward. There's a lot of confusion around working restoratively. Unfortunately, sometimes restorative practices are viewed as the label suggests: restore, repair, discipline different. But all of the research suggests that if you only view restorative practices in that way, you will not be successful. Truly working restoratively means creating a positive community and high quality relationships, because if you don't build it, there will be nothing to repair. And I'm going to mention, and I took a screenshot at the end of this, of a wonderful report that came out very recently, September of this past year, so September 2020, from Baltimore. And I have quite a few video clips I'm going to use from Baltimore today because they are a restorative city. And they are a large city, if you know anything about Baltimore, probably very much like our urban centers here, whether it's Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven, and so on, Waterbury. But they have very successfully transformed what they do by working restoratively. And I highly recommend that you look at this report. I can happily, I've sent it to Rosie, and I'm sure that between Rosie and Karen, they can post it. It is a phenomenal report. But one of the things that we need to do is every single person, because this is a framework and a philosophy, is create your own patterns and rituals for how you're going to use circles. They're not just to use once a month when you think about it. It's about using them routinely. And I hope that by the end of today, if you're not aware of that, you will consider that. So think about the time of day you use it for your own purposes. Starting class, sort of as an equalizer. Everybody comes in from different places. Sometimes teachers find that one of the most difficult times of the day is coming in after lunch recess. So maybe that's a time when you want to do it. The end of the day for reflections. And of course, as you will see from so many of these little video clips, you can use them during the day to get your own work done. So what's the purpose? To begin or end your day, build relationships and community, calm down and regroup, solve problems, conduct lessons. I mean, there's myriad ways that you can use circles, but you're going to have to figure out for yourself what makes sense and what routines you want to create. So the reason why we want to use circles ritualistically is that they provide safety, comfort, consistency, predictability, and a tangible bridge from one thing to the next. Now, all children thrive when you create safe, comfortable, consistent, predictable environments. Children with trauma, their lives depend upon it. And one of the things we must be concerned with when we're truly understanding how trauma presents with young children in the classroom is we desperately want to make sure that we are creating respite from their traumatic lives. Rosie, is there a question? Something I don't know popped up. If it is, please interrupt me. Okay, here are some critical issues with circles. As you look to all of these little video clips I'm going to share with you, it will be evident that circles can be related to course content, interpersonal matters, taking attendance, giving compliments, and so many other reasons. Circles help people take responsibility, allow quiet voices to be heard, and allow leaders to emerge just naturally. Circles intentionally give everyone the opportunity to be a member of the community, not just those favored individuals who are usually chosen or raise their hands no matter what, and you pick on them. And many people will say, I don't know, or can I pass? Just make sure you have responses to these statements. So the shape of the circle is important. As closely as you can get to a true circle, the better. But I have seen teachers be incredibly creative in classrooms that have such as science labs that have fixed big, tall desks, and the circle looks more like a hot dog. And it would be better to do it that way than not to do it at all. Clear directions increase the likelihood of success, and leaders should model appropriate participation. Leaders don't always have to start, but they should definitely participate. Circles help people explore issues on a deeper level, brainstorm, problem solve. And in circles, no matter what the topic is, they learn about one another and build relationships just by virtue of seeing and being together in that configuration. All right, so this is sort of the kinds of circles that we're going to look at, the different configurations, whether those are sequential, non-sequential, concentric. And I think that when we get to concentric circles, this would be a really great use of breakout rooms. Put two kids in a breakout room together and you can approximate this, but I will remind you of that when we get there. We're going to talk about talking pieces, and there's all kinds of different topic areas that we can use. And these are for adults and children. Circles are not just for students. They can be used very, very effectively for adults as well. So whether it's problem solving, dealing with serious situations, playing games, academic circles, getting to know you, whether that's check-in or reflection circles and complement circles. This is probably, I'm sure, not an exhaustive list, but sort of an overview of the different kinds of circles that we're going to go over today. So sequential circles are when you pass it from one person to the next around the circle, and this is the easiest and most controlled to implement. The non-sequential circles, which just go back and forth depending upon who wants the talking piece. Fishbowls, different way to do either sequential or non-sequential. Again, we'll go over that. And then concentric circles, and it allows everyone to talk and listen at once. Now that may sound absolutely ridiculous, but it is actually good noise and it works very well. All right, so when you do a sequential circle from one person to the next, and hang with me, I am going to get to the virtual connection with all this, but we need to lay the groundwork so you know exactly why circles should be used. There's a specific question. It's done in order. Participation is expected, although not always required. Whenever I lead a circle, I always make it clear that if you want to pass, you can. And that is a very important rule because otherwise the circle is not safe. So in any case, I always mention you can pass. Now, the talking piece can be used to provide additional structure, and we're going to go over that shortly. So let's talk about some talking pieces. Virtually anything that can be passed safely around the circle can be used as a talking piece. Whoever has the talking piece in their hand is the only one who is allowed to speak. And there are lots of ways to agree without talking. I've seen incredibly creative ways of students and teachers, whether they go like this to say, I agree, or use thumbs up. Certainly with the emojis that are on virtual, you could agree that way. That happens to me a lot during these professional development sessions. But a class could create their own silent ways of agreeing or disagreeing or whatever. It's then passed around the circle during the go around. And it's another way to reinforce the fact that one person talks at a time and that person should have the group's attention. So another thing about talking pieces, and this is again, whether you're virtual or you are in person, it gives kids something tactile to do while speaking. And I'm sure you know that many children can't talk without fidgeting with something. It can be something totally mundane, like an eraser or a box of pencils, but you might want to pick something more symbolic for the group. So that could be a group decision. You could let them decide. You might have a basket of talking pieces so that who's ever leading the circle could choose the one they want to talk with. So I just took some pictures of some talking pieces you might commonly use. The two on either side, the purple and the other little ball, are stress balls. And so it gives somebody a nice thing to squish. Koosh balls are a lot of fun to play with. This is a little rod that has liquid and sequins so that it moves when you tip it one way or the other. You'll want to choose your talking piece carefully, because if you have children who tend to use anything in their hand as a weapon, maybe the little rod is not a good thing. Okay. Here's another set of talking pieces. The one on the far left in red, white, and blue is an official Beanie Baby. The one on the right, as you can see, it says West Bristol Wolves. That's a wonderful K-8 school in Bristol. And I was out there and they gave me their little stuffed animal mascot. So that could be a talking piece. And the one in the center, anybody who's been with me virtually has seen this little guy before. I'll tell you what it is, because that's usually a question that comes up. I received this in a goodie bag after a national conference that was hosted at Yale a number of years ago. And it was in there, and there were a lot of high level sponsors of that conference. I think it was Google, Facebook, Life is Good, and Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and Lady Gaga's Mother's Foundation, Born This Way. And on this little thing, it is there's a tag that says Gaga's Workshop. Now here's a trivia question, and anybody who wants to answer it in the chat, feel free to. Does anybody know, I certainly didn't, but anybody know what Lady Gaga's fans are called? Yes, little monsters. And that's what this obviously is. Now, once I found that out, because for years I didn't know it, and just so you know, even before COVID, regularly he, she, it got a woolite bath to make it a little bit cleaner. And now it's hermetically sealed in a little Ziploc bag to be used, I hope, post-COVID again. But I went online, this thing retails for at least $50. So it's not a cheap kind of talking piece, but it satisfies everything I want a talking piece to do. Because if you throw it across the room and it hits somebody, it doesn't hurt. You can see how many things there are to fidget with, the fringe around the eye and the body. The bottom has little beans or something in it, and you can twist that back and forth. So it also, if you throw it and somebody doesn't catch it, it stops. I'm not going to use a ball because I would be chasing them and wasting too much time. So anyway, here's some other talking pieces. Now, in the time of COVID, you could literally pass around a bottle of hand sanitizer. Who's ever leading the circle could use a flashlight, not shine in somebody's eyes, of course, but to signify whose turn it was. You could also use a pointer stick, which I think would be very effective. But we're going to get into the virtual kids who are on their computers and so on. I just want to get this out. So the first little video clip I want to show you is from Baltimore. Again, this is not a charter school. This is a regular public school. It's a high school, but I want to begin with this one because the teacher models the level of detail he's looking for, and it is a sequential circle going from one person to the next, but it is a very interesting talking piece, which satisfies the conditions of a good talking piece. But we also want, so if anybody can tell what that is, you can chat it out as you figure out what it is. So here it is. These are all quite short.
And Joanne, while you're setting this up, people are,
What is your definition of success?
Okay, Rosie, what?
sorry, I'm sorry, you're too quick. I was just going to say, the question that has come in is, will this presentation be recorded? Yes, it is, and it will be posted on the CAS website. So I just wanted to put that out. I thought maybe I could do it in between, but we got it.
That's okay. I'll go back and we can start it again. It's no problem.
Sorry.
Again, these are all, no problem at all. So here we go.
Now, we talked about what is your definition of success? What does a successful person have? Now, I want you to tell me, what does a successful person do? Okay? So I'm going to give you my definition of what a successful person does. A successful person doesn't complain. A successful person is a person that is self-motivated, is intrinsically motivated, like they are able to motivate themselves without someone having to come to them and say, hey, you need to do this. They understand why they need to do it because it's to better themselves. So for me, with me being a successful person, what I would do if I wanted to ensure success is make sure that I'm always pushing myself to be better than I was yesterday. So to me, that's what a successful person does, is that they are never satisfied. What do you think a successful person does?
I agree with you. On that note, how they, go out and do what they do without nobody asking them to do stuff.
I agree as well. I feel like they set goals for themselves that they can accomplish like every day, and their everyday lives to keep them motivated. I think it's like a leader or like somebody that got their own, that use their own thing, like maybe buy their own house and have their own businesses, and everything is about themselves because they're a person that's successful, like they have their own everything as a leader.
They basically do things to better themselves. They really don't think about what other people have to take. They know what they're capable of doing, what they can't do. So they do things that motivate themselves. Sometimes they help others because it's just the way they are, but they basically do things that's going to help them in everyday life.
They have their own mindset. In their own mind, they don't think about nobody else.
Okay, did anybody have a sense of what that talking piece is? Anybody? You can chat it out. Yes, it's a lock. Yes, it's a padlock. Now, again, that wouldn't be something I'd be throwing around a circle, but it is definitely something that satisfies it. So if you have a group that can handle something like that, there's nothing wrong with, because anything can be a talking piece. So let me make sure. Yes. Okay. So let's talk about non-sequential circles. They usually involve a much more general question like, does anyone want to share their reaction to the activity we just did, or who needs help today to finish their project, who had trouble doing the homework, something like that. Now, there's really two general kinds of non-sequential circles. The first kind is this kind of thing you might open with after you've done an activity, or you have, or checking in with kids. There's more unstructured ones that are more like a group that a child might have with a psychologist or a social worker. But when you're doing non-sequential circles, there's no order and participation is voluntary, but you could require everyone to have a turn. And if you wanted to do it that way, whether you're standing, you could have children with their hands to the side, and then once they've had a turn, fold them in back of themselves so that everybody would know who's already had a turn. If you were sitting, same thing is true. They could hold their hands on their knees, and then when they were finished, put their hands, fold them together like this so that everybody would know who had a turn and who didn't have a turn. So this particular non-sequential circle is almost inaudible. So I don't want anybody to get frustrated with the lack of clear sound, but it is a middle school in that same Baltimore city. And they are talking about, and we're going to see this middle school modeling academic circles. We're not going back, we're going forward. Sorry about that. But the point is, they're reflecting on how they did at a particular, after they took a quiz or a test or something like that. And there's a tennis ball used here. The last thing I would be using in professional development, because it would be bouncing all over the place. But these guys can really throw and catch, so it works for them. And it's just a very short but simple example of a non-sequential circle. So here we go.
Any questions for the good of the circle?
How many think y'all did right now in that podcast? I think I did okay. I struggled a couple of questions.
I think I did okay, because some of them was hard, and I didn't know something.
I think I did good because some of it was hard.
I think I did okay. I think I did very good on the reading one because it was easy. And I think I did okay on the math.
I think I did good on the math because I tried my best.
I think I did very good on the reading, but I paid a lot of attention and it seemed a little easy. I think I did good on the math because I took my time and did my work. So my work.
I did good on both tests because I took my time and did my best.
Okay, so whoops, I think, there we go. I just want to, all right, so here's some secrets to success. The more you are clear about your goal and your topic, you're going to allow participants to react accordingly. Set a positive tone. Circles are worthwhile and they're fun. I would never force anybody to do a circle, especially someone that didn't think they were something positive to do, because that will kill it. Keep the focus. This is about the only time when you can, as a facilitator, you can speak without having the talking piece. So if somebody strays from the topic or is talking over somebody, you want to refocus folks, or you want to repeat the question, or you want to remind them that only you can speak when you have the talking piece. And these are really helpful things to keep in mind so that the circles go well. I think once you try it, you would be so surprised at how easy it is to run. You may want to pull a few participants aside beforehand if you think you need to. I don't generally have that issue, but let's say you have a couple of kids that tend to derail things or be class clowns and so on, and you're just starting out, you may want to pull them aside, let them know what's happening, see if you can get their support and commitment beforehand. but that rarely is needed. So now, before we go further into this, I'm going to share with you a little video around conducting virtual circles, because I think it's important to understand what circles are in general and then apply it to virtual circles. Now, this particular person uses his colleagues to demonstrate some things, and he is using Zoom. But I'm pretty confident that even if you're using Google Meets or any other kind of platform, that working with your IT person, every platform has these same kinds of qualities. It just may not look exactly the same. But here we go.
Hello, and welcome to this online instructional video on using restorative circles in an online environment. My name is Derek Frank. I am a trainer and facilitator of restorative practices. I've been with the International Institute for Restorative Practices for 15 years. I also am a specialist in the School of Criminal Justice at Michigan State University. I'm a researcher with the American Institutes for Research and a subject matter expert with the National Center for School Safety. Just an important note before we get started, the intended audience here are teachers who are already using circles in the classroom and who have some training with restorative practices. If you would like more in-depth resources for preparing for facilitating circles and trainings, take a look at some links we provide at the end of the video. You're thinking about facilitating a circle online. Where to begin? First things first, so thinking about just your screen as a presenter, what do you want to see? And one of the things I like to do is I like to have my participants off to the left. For this video, we use Zoom, but for any platform you use, you'll generally encounter the same sort of features. So as you can see here, I've got some colleagues that helped me out with this. I've got them on a Zoom call. I can see all their faces over here on the left. On the right, I've got some content. So in this case, we've got a check-in circle planned, a checkout circle. Both of those are going to be sequential. And then in the middle, I've got some non-sequential questions. These are intended to be a little more in-depth, elicit some more emotion. So I've got these all written out. So when I look at my screen, I'm seeing this Word document over here. I'm seeing my Zoom screen over here. I've got my participant view here, so I can keep track of everybody that's in. I'm seeing whether they're on mute or not. I've also got my chat box feature open down here. I've got all of my controls down here. And you can also, of course, maximize your Zoom screen here. So if you've got a lot of students and you'd rather see their smiling faces, you can maximize this, bring up your other documents as you need to. One note that I'm hearing from teachers is the size of these, right? So what's an appropriate size for an online circle like this? And does it get unwieldy at a certain point? And from teachers here in Michigan that I'm hearing from, they tend to think that around 20 so far works pretty well or less. Anything over that can get a little unwieldy. You might not see everybody on the screen. So you might consider offering different sessions for different sections of your class. Next, you'll want to determine the order of people speaking if you're running a sequential circle. And there's a couple ways you can do this. One is you can simply use the chat feature, type out your students' names in order, and they can find theirs. They know when they're going and who's going next. Keep in mind with that, if people show up to the meeting after you've entered these in, you'll just have to enter them in again. So your new students who pop in can see the order. Another way to do it is to create a visual. And so you can share this with your students either through the screen share feature, you can share it in advance, and it's just a helpful way to see, where folks are situated. Next, so if you've done circles in the classroom, you know how important circle norms are, circle guidelines. Online circles are no different. In fact, there are a few extra challenges now. And one of those is audio and another one's video. So in terms of audio, you'll have to make some decisions about how you would like your students to mute or unmute themselves or whether you want to control that. Teachers I'm hearing from that I work with, it kind of depends on grade level. Younger students, I'm finding teachers prefer to control all audio themselves. And so you can do that a number of ways. You can click here and even mute everybody when they enter the meeting. And here is where you can click allow participants to unmute themselves. So if you don't check that box, then it's up to you, right? To mute or unmute students as they go. You can do that as a group here, mute all, unmute all, or individually, you can do that here by clicking on the microphone. So another potential distraction is the chat feature. Now, there's a couple ways you can manage this. And if you'll take a look right there, you've got some options, right? So you can set the chat feature so that none of your students can use it at all. So you use it to display the order of people speaking, and that's it, that's fine. Some teachers are actually finding some success with this, using it for course content, covering lessons, and they want students to be able to answer. Now, there's a couple ways you can do that too. You can allow your students to, like I said, chat with no one. So that's essentially disabled the feature, or you can click host only. And so that might be answers to questions that you want to allow your students to communicate just with you and not with other students. And last but not least, the talking piece. And so this is actually a feature of online circles that I like a lot, because you can ask students to choose their own talking piece, bring something from their home to the circle that's meaningful to them. You'll see in this circle, even in our check-in, I asked my colleagues to bring their own talking piece to this and to explain, why they chose it. Why is this meaningful to you? Naomi here is talking about her stuffed animal. And so the way I like to use the talking piece is, say we're doing a sequential go around and it's Naomi's turn. She would grab her stuffed animal and she would show it. And I would say, I'm picking up my talking piece. And then when I'm done, I would say,
I'm going to place it back in the center.
And then that would give the next student the indication that it's their turn to pick up the talking piece, just like a non-sequential circle. And so if you're doing those, like my question rounds here in the middle, you've got the screen, you've got eyes on your class, and whoever is ready would like to participate would at that point grab their talking piece, show it to the screen, and then you might say, okay, I see Naomi has picked up her talking piece. Go to Naomi, unmute Naomi. She speaks, and when she's done, she'll announce that she's putting her talking piece back in the center. I'll mute Naomi, and then I'll wait for someone else to grab their talking piece and just proceed accordingly like that. Say you've got a large class and you see multiple talking pieces raised at the same time. You see here, Phoebe's got hers, Donnie's got hers. That's another time you could use the chat feature. You could type in the names of the talking pieces, the students that raised theirs, and then that gives them just a sense of when their turn might be. So thanks for watching. At the end of the day, give it a shot. It might take a couple times to iron out the kinks, but from what I'm hearing overall from teachers, this is a really valuable tool, especially during social distancing, to keep students connected with each other, with you, especially in classrooms where circles have become a ritual. This can be a really, really important and valuable tool. So give it a shot, share your stories, let us know how it's going, and take a look at some of the resources we've got for you. Thanks again.
Okay, so I just thought I would echo some of the things. I had a conversation with some friends the other night, and I just took a screenshot of, you could use the participants feature or as the order for your virtual circles. You could also, as he suggested, I put them in this kind of an order here rather than in one long list. You could give an order in the chat. You could also create that circle, and I did it twice just to demonstrate that you could create different orders and put them up so that you're not always sitting next to the same student. So you get the idea. So it's different here, here's another one, and so on. So now let's talk about the purposes of circles. Check in and check out. And if anybody has any questions about this stuff, please jump in and ask them. I'm happy to attempt to answer any questions that come up. Check-in and check-out circles are done usually as a sequential go-around. It's a tool to foster accountability on the part of the participants. So it could be related to course content, or building relationships, looking at and reviewing any acknowledgements, agreements, goals, those kinds of things. It's just a way to review and reiterate what everyone has done together in the class. So here is let me just say that there is a number of phenomenal videos that are linked to in that Baltimore document. And I see that Karen has already posted it on the CAS website. I would say we'll also post it on our website, but in there is an 18-minute video that showcases this 3rd grade class. And I have the entire thing, but I also have it broken up into, I think, 8 different pieces. It's very clear that every single day in this class, in this school, they have a period where they just do circles and check in and so on. And so I thought I would share some various clips from this 18-minute video because it is phenomenal in terms of what is going on and how the circles are being used ritualistically. So here we go.
I see Angel, you like to share news? You want to start off with news?
Last night I was watching a movie and then I was up all night and then I fell asleep on the couch.
Yesterday, I went over to Nolan's house and we had a party. And he took his flashlight to the wall and we started dancing. And then we ate some candy and we got hyped.
My news is last night, me, my brother, and my sister, we were playing with my brother's golf, my little brother's golf thing. They had 2 golf clubs, 3 golf balls.
My news is that I was playing Just Dance and I was beating all the levels and I was so excited because I was listening to 24 Karat Magic. My news is we didn't go see A Wrinkle in Time because my mother didn't feel like it and I was mad.
I'm glad to be here this morning.
I feel happy and my news is I studied and then that's when I went outside for a little bit. My news is that my birthday's coming up and then I studied. I don't have any news.
My news is I studied for like an hour and that's when after that I studied after I studied for an hour I started playing my game with my brother.
I studied and then I watched A Wrinkle in Time and then I fell asleep in the middle of the movie.
I have a huge test coming up this weekend that I have to take, and it's going to take hours.
Dang.
Yesterday when I was playing GTA 5, I did the parkour and I made it.
On Easter, I came home late, so I didn't get a chance to play the Easter eggs.
I got where the phone back from my mother. She took it.
Okay, so that was an example of just like a check-in circle with sharing news overnight. And I do see here that Rita is asking, you're full in person with some larger classrooms. If you can't get in a circle due to distancing, creative ideas. Well, I do think that you can potentially use a fishbowl or have kids. I understand that the CDC says nobody can face each other and so on. I wonder, and I certainly don't want to get anybody in trouble, but as long as you're 6 to 8 feet away, is there a way to have some smaller circles and have students switch places? So whether it's fish bowls next to each other or you're doing one circle and then you change, let's talk about that a little as we go forward. Rosie, was there some other question?
Yeah, and it's pretty similar. Do you have any suggestions for passing the talking piece during the COVID because of physical distancing, so kids aren't touching the talking piece?
Again, I might use a pointer. I might use a flashlight, something like that. I'm going to show you another talking piece that's a ball that I think would work quite well. So let's keep going with that and consider that as we move forward. I think we have to be fairly creative. Yes, that and William says that they're conducting circles during mass breaks. Yes, I just think we need to be as creative as we can and keep the spirit alive as we go forward. All right. So we'll keep responding to these things. So keep those questions going. So get to know you circles. They can be very, very simple, fast, 1, 2, or 3 word answers. If you are working on full sentences, you could ask for a full sentence, but anything that has to do with, where would you go or what would you do, or, binary choices. I have a teacher down in Fairfield County who loves binary choices. What do you like, cake or pie, night or day, that kind of thing. If you could turn into an animal, which would it be? And anything that starts with favorite, anything. You could also have one word that describes how you feel. Now, you noticed in the last little video clip, a number of them said, I'm happy, that made me mad, that kind of thing, encouraging. We're in SEL priority time now. And when you do this work, this is SEL. We see social emotional learning as an outcome. And when you're engaged in circles and everybody's learning about everybody else, that is absolutely becoming socially, emotionally intelligent, learning how to listen, learning how to share, learning how to appreciate other people and their perspectives and so on. I would highly recommend that in your workrooms, your faculty rooms, whatever, put up chart paper, butcher paper, and have adults just graffiti all kinds of great circle starters, get to know you kinds of things. As a university instructor, I now always start every single class with a benign get to know you kind of circle. In first class, I always say that they have to say their name so that by the end of the class, I know all their names. The second thing is I always leave time at the end for a reflection. What are you taking away? What's resonating? And we very often go sequentially. Sometimes we go non-sequentially if somebody's thinking about something, but and at the end, again, we want everybody to have an opportunity to share something they're taking away. All right. So this one I love. It's a middle school in Maine. It's a really good example of a check-in circle, something you would do just to get things started. You can see how short it is. And this particular teacher obviously has thought overnight what she's going to use. So she looks to her side and she says, here's our first restorative question of the day. Now, it's and she has, it's a 2-part question, so it goes quickly. Now, let me make a very important point. I don't think it matters that much with little people, primary students, but I never like to put a question out there and just throw the talking piece to the person next to me. They may not be ready. So what I always like to say is, who would like to start? And then I say, you can choose to go left or right. This is in a sequential circle. In this case, she does not do that, but I think that it's still safe because it's such a simple choice. It's really a choice of 3 things. And that gives the students a chance to think about how they're going to answer why. But it goes by very quickly and she participates. So here we go.
Okay, so our first starter question this morning is, if you are spending a week on vacation with your family, you have these 3 choices on where you can go on vacation, okay? Would you go with your family to a cabin in the woods for a week? Okay, there could be a stream or a lake there and, 4-wheeling, all that stuff. Would you go on a tropical beach location? Or would you go to a ski resort in the mountains? So just first round, just pick which one, and then second round, we're going to talk about why.
The cabin in the woods, tropical resort, ski mountain thingy, tropical resort.
Cabin in the woods.
Cabin in the woods, the tropical resort.
I definitely go tropical. So why would you choose the place that you chose?
Because we like to go camping, so kind of going in a cabin in the woods would be cool because it's different from a camper, but it's still camping. Because I love the ocean and warm weather and it's relaxing.
Because I've always just wanted to go to like the Bahamas and something, so that'd be cool.
A lot of people in my family like to ski. I like to see the beautiful beaches and be in the warmth instead of in chilly Maine.
Like for like if there's like a lake out there, I like to go swimming. So.
Just like the outdoor stuff, like ATVing and like fishing and stuff.
I would go because I have family in the tropical here.
I love the beach, I love the ocean, I love everything about tropical locations.
That lasted less than 2 minutes. Okay, here we go. Whoops, did I? All right. So here is another one that I absolutely love. I just put this in, so I apologize for not knowing the order completely, but this is another awesome way for a check-in. Okay, here we go. I think this is the one where they're taking attendance. And if you think about something as mundane as taking attendance, notice how he has ritualized this. Now this is 3rd grade. And if you can't get the words, I'll tell you what they are afterwards.
Are y'all ready for the song?
Yes.
1, 2, ready, go. So good. All right, I'm gonna put this in the middle.
Okay, they start out by saying 3rd grade's in the building today, 3rd grade's in the building today, and then hello to all my classmates, hello to all my teachers. They repeat that and then they go around and do roll call. This is the kind of thing that's such an awesome example of what it means to change something from being routine, like brushing your teeth, into something meaningful. And you can see the smiles on their face and the sense of inclusion and so on. And I get it, not all of us play the guitar, but if you can think about how you might use this in your own setting, I think it's pretty cool. Again, these two are part of an 18-minute video that has so many different pieces, and I'm not done sharing with you some of the other ones.
Are y'all ready for the song?
Whoops. Yeah. Okay. So here's a get to know you circle. And this is high school students. Rosie, is there a question there or something?
Yeah, sorry. That's a good way to give you a cue that there's a question.
Yeah, I see your face.
So the question is, when the circles are virtual and or larger, is it okay for you to have people talk in the chat and give their responses as opposed to going around in a circle?
Sure. I think that, you know, when I answer sure, I like to remind people that there are really only 2 goals when you're working restoratively. Build high quality relationships and community, and then repair them when harm has been done. That's it. So beyond that, there's no right or wrong way to conduct a circle. If for some kids opening a mic is threatening, or we've worked with a number of districts this past year who have unfortunate circumstances for some of the children. We worked with a group in Colorado where there was a lot of homelessness, and some of these children were living in hotel rooms. And so, of course, they don't want to open their camera because of that. And it would be not good to open their mic because they might hear an awful lot of background noise. So I think we have to think about safety, and is it safe for kids? So that's really a great question, but we want to make sure that somehow they're participating. So if they do answer in the chat and that feels comfortable, at least initially, go for it. Okay, I hope I answered that one all right. Okay, so this is a group of high school students, and try to figure out what the talking piece is that they're using, okay? It's an interesting talking piece. I'm not 100% sure, but we can make some guesses. Here we go.
I have another question for you. What do you like to do in your free time? I'll start. Although I don't have a lot of free time, and that's done by choice, I'd have to say that when I do have time that's on my own, I like to spend time with my family. My family helps me out a lot. They're a huge support network for me, and they are very important to me. So when I have a moment free, I really like to catch up and spend time to show them how much I appreciate them.
Sorry.
It's okay.
In my free time, I really like engaging in musical activities, so playing an instrument or listening to music. I have a turntable, which is kind of strange for teenagers, but I collect vinyls, I like listening to them, that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Like Miss Westcott, I don't really have a lot of free time, but if I do, I like to either spend it with my friends or listen to music and just relax.
During my spare time, I really like to spend time with my friends, but I also have a lot of friends who live out of town and farther away. So when I don't get to see them as often, if I have free time and they're free, I'll call them or FaceTime them or text them just so we can catch up a little bit because we don't get to see each other too often.
In my free time, I love to play with my dog. I have like a little tiny little white dog. His name's Elvis.
Before we, if you want to kind of guess at the talking piece there, but notice that when kids, yeah, it could be a walkie-talkie. That's one thing it could be. I think there are a couple other things. So if anybody has any other ideas, please jump in. But let me just say that when students start to share what they like to do in their free time, they learn things like, wow, I like music too. And that can start conversations. Maybe the one with the dog, somebody else didn't know somebody else had their pet. So it always is a conversation starter when you're not having these circles. That's how people get to know one another. A small recording device, it could be that. I got a couple other things it could be. Anybody, any other thoughts of what that one could be? Walkie-talkie, small recording device. I think it could be a lavalier mic, and because the sound's pretty good on that, so they're just passing that around. I also think that it could be, or if it isn't, this would be an idea, an FM receiver. So that if you have a student who's hard of hearing and needs an FM receiver, that would be a way to pass something around so that that student could always hear. So lots of different examples of talking pieces. Okay, now this is one of my favorite video clips, and it is from Pinellas, Florida, which is a district that is completely restorative. And so what you're going to hear are teachers and administrators from all levels talking about the benefits of working restoratively, but what you see is the use of circles. And notice that circles are used for academics. I think we tend to think of circles as just check-in or reflection or whatever, but notice the use of circles for academics, whether you can see math happening or there's a, I think it's a first grade teacher who's reading a book to kids in a circle. But notice how often they have their notebooks with them, their pencils, they're actually conducting their lessons in a circle, because that is one of the people tend to think that working restoratively takes more time. Well, it actually doesn't when you consider that this is how you do what you do. So just enjoy this, and if you have any questions after, feel free to ask.
Restorative practice has changed the environment in our classroom. It's given children, especially on the spectrum in my classroom, a chance to speak out where normally they would remain quiet.
Restorative practice is, the way we look at it is a way for all students, staff, and teachers to build community and be involved, and that's kind of the approach that we took.
In our classroom, it's taken on various themes. At the beginning of the year, it was more getting children used to just talking with each other, feeling comfortable with their friends, and knowing it's a safe place to discuss things. There's no right answers, there's no wrong answers, but that we can all discuss.
First thing I think about when I think about restorative practices is the relationship piece between our teachers and our students and our students and our students. It's really creating a way for them to have a discussion about a multitude of things. It could be a conflict, it could just be getting to know each other, but it's building that relationship piece.
What emotion you are showing us, and then we'll talk about what made us think of that emotion.
I feel that my shyer students that would normally not say much of anything have come out of their shell.
Relationship building, get to know your students. You're going to have a lot in common with them.
So the most important part for this age group, I feel, is the opportunity for them to share their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, just their opinions sometimes on what they're thinking. So what we're doing is developing that trust with one caring adult, at least one caring adult for every student in the school. So that first period teacher is their caring adult for those students. And we know that that is valuable. The research tells us that makes the difference in school.
When you don't know how to communicate how you're feeling, you act out. And so through the circles and through some social skills that we do every day, kids are learning how to ask for help. They're learning the I can messages so that they can let the person know that's bothering them, this is what you're doing and I need you to stop.
I'm actually very pleased. I have 3 non-English speaking students in my class, and at the beginning, they were very timid, didn't really want to say anything at all. And as we keep practicing, they want to have that chance to just one word and then, okay, I'm going to try a full sentence, and they're getting more confident. So just in that piece alone, I'm happy to see kids that have a quieter voice have a chance to, okay, well, I'm not passing judgment here. None of my classmates seem to, okay, I'm going to give it a try.
It is literally the natural way in which to do a class. I cannot see myself from this point forward teaching a class that doesn't have some type of restorative practice.
The culture of the school has been completely changed. It is phenomenal. What you see is true relationships between students and teachers. You also see the students feeling a sense of trust. If I messed up, it's okay. We're going to talk it out. We're going to move forward. Instead of being just punitive, we're learning to rebuild.
The peer-to-peer interactions have become more sincere. The kids get along better. I have a better relationship with them much earlier on. And it really got my class through some truly tough times. I set it up as a way to build culture, but the restorative circles are happening naturally as kind of intended when big events happen. The processes and strategies are already in place because I'm using them as part of my morning meeting.
I thought with my 7th graders sitting around in a circle, it wasn't going to work. But after laying down what I expected during the circle, they really get into it. They quiet, on Monday mornings, I don't even have to really, say, hey, it's time. They start forming the circle. I let my kids sit on the tables, so it's an added little plus. But it spawned on conversation, so it's pretty good.
Because we start every staff meeting in a circle. It's definitely something that we do every time we meet. They're changing the way, with time constraints, they're making the time to have the circles.
We encourage our teachers to do it the first week of school to team build class rules and norms together. And then for problems that may come up. Maybe I have a substitute one day in my class and the sub left a report that wasn't the best report. Okay, let's circle up. Let's talk about what happened yesterday. What can we do to improve and get better for next time we have a sub?
I was a little hesitant just because I didn't know much about it, but I did. My principal gave me a few books to read. I also looked online and I watched a few videos online as well before I conducted my own meeting. And then a lot of things that I read just said start off simple and then start building from there. So right now it's still the beginning of the year. So we have our check-in, we have our conversation, and we talk about the topic that we could work on together, and then we check out with it. And the students actually look forward to it. They know it's going to be a restorative circle meeting day, then they come ready.
I would say you just have to do it. That's step number 1, and make it something easy. My first restorative practice circle was them sharing what they did this summer. And that's all we did for the first time. And the second time was, what's your one goal that you would like to achieve in chorus?
I think in some way it kind of motivates them, and I can't wait until we follow up with them to see if they're actually doing better or not.
We took the approach of, yes, this is something else, but we all have the heart to do this. We all became teachers because we wanted to prepare students to become individuals who can make a difference in the community after graduation.
I just found the restorative circles really help my students, the ones that are really shy and afraid to speak and share their feelings, that it brought them out. Whereas in the past, they would have never said anything.
Just that I think it'd be nice for you to try. I don't think, you don't feel like anybody's judging you about it. Use it in the best way you see fit to build your classroom, to build your classroom community and your classroom family.
I'm a firm believer that that it is relationships, that a kid, even we think that are so far gone. If you build that relationship, it's almost an immediate turnaround.
The restorative practice to me has been like a mind-blowing experience these last few months, man. Just learning the system, understanding what it is, learning my kids, really knowing what it is they're going through, getting them to learn me. I mean, it's been, any teacher who's not doing it, I just think that you're missing out on like a really awesome experience. Not about your classroom, not about your content, but about knowing the kids.
Okay, I just think that has so many wonderful examples, and I don't know whether you caught it, but there's a game at one point we'll talk about in a second, and I caught what she said. She said, "Black hair, stand up." They had an orange koosh ball. So we'll talk about that in another way. So here is a course content circle. It's a public middle school, and they're talking about a long-term project they've been doing and where they are with it. And notice that all the hands go up in the beginning, pick me, until the talking piece is given. It's clear that they know the routine, and it goes around the circle. And it is very carefully, again, routinely going back to the teacher who does not speak at the end until she has that talking piece. Again, role modeling, practicing, being part of how we do business is how this works. So very short, but again, of course, content circle.
Okay, so our last question is going to focus more around the project that we've been working on, the one that's due on Friday, where you're doing the backwards planning of your life. So now that you've really got an opportunity to study how much cars cost, how much houses cost, how much the career you want actually pays, I want you to now answer the question, what do you want to do, or what are your plans for the future? So now that we've actually gotten ideas of how to wrap our minds around it, what are your plans? There was one more race, but he didn't. I tried.
No.
Okay.
My plans for the future is to be in the Army.
My plan for the future is to be a football player.
My plans for the future is to own my own business.
My plans for the future is to own my own company called Healing Health and be a social security worker. My plans is to own my own business and help people. My plans is to be successful with everything.
My plans for the future is to get a high paying job.
My plans for the future is to focus and be an engineer.
My plans for the future is to be an engineer.
My plans for the future is to be an engineer and technical. My plans is to be a
My plan is to be a nerd.
My plans are to continue to be awesome and special.
My plan is to protect my family and get a high paying job.
My plans is to be a lawyer. Don't know which one yet, but yeah, a lawyer. And to be able to support my family and be there when they need me. My plans is to be an elementary teacher.
My plans is to be a fifth school year.
My plans is to be a first or environmental scientist.
Okay, my plan for the future is I would be the most awesome author out there, so better than the ones now, and to show you guys that science is cool. My plans for the future is to provide for my family and be a good obstetrician. My plans for the future are to become an orthopedic surgeon and protect my family.
My plans for the future is to be an artist or a real estate agent.
My plan for the future is to be a computer programmer.
So really, I mean, those ideas for your future are very different from what I heard last week when we did the same thing.
Okay, again, we can use them to get our work done. So I mentioned earlier using a ball, and I think that this would be a great talking piece, not only face-to-face, but during COVID. So let me explain all of this. It could be, believe it or not, these are exactly the same ball. Well, they're two balls, but this one on the left just needs to be pumped up a little bit. But the one on the right looked like the one on the left before I attacked it with some Sharpies. And I used to use the one on the right for face-to-face training. And where I would use it would be as a review of as far as we had gotten in the restorative practices training. But this ball, because it's quite easy to sanitize, might be a really great talking piece during COVID, because I think you can wipe it down and you could wipe it at the end. And so you wouldn't have to have, you know, just a bottle of sanitizer. This is something you could throw. Now, I look long and hard for a ball. If any of you have ever, certainly not me, held a real soccer ball, the thing is heavy. And if you threw it, you could get hurt. So I purposely wanted to find a bouncy ball that didn't hurt somebody when it was thrown. Costs about $5.99 or something like that. And it works perfectly. Now, a way to use this ball so that you wouldn't have to have more than one is just to number it. Well, first, let me ask a trivia question here. It's always kind of fun. Anybody know how many hexagons and pentagons it takes to make a soccer ball? Usually stumps everybody. Anybody know? Hexagons and pentagons. 18. Anybody else? I won't make you suffer too long, but believe it or not, it's 32, 20 hexagons and 12 pentagons. I know this because I had to come up with 32 questions. Anyway, you could use one ball. Now, this ball could be used with young kids for sight words, rhyming words, colors, math facts. I mean, all kinds of things. As you get older, it could be parts of speech, characters, sentence starters, stories, different you could use it for elements in chemistry and so on. But I don't think you need to, Rosie said she's used balloons and a Sharpie. You can throw it away after you finish, or each student can have their own ball and toss it in the air when it's their turn, then put it away so they're only touching it. I mean, sure, again, build it and repair it. But I think that if you had one ball like this and become friends with your physical education teachers so they can blow it up for you from time to time, but you could number from 1 to 32. And so you could change the key, and you wouldn't have to have 32 questions. You could have, 12 questions. And if you land on 1 through 4 with your thumbs, you answer question 1, 5 through 8, question 2, and so on. So you could have one ball that functioned for everything. And if you are using it just as a talking piece, it's a talking piece. You don't have to pay attention to the numbers at all. So I think this is an excellent way to incorporate a whole lot of things. Kids love it because it brings something kinesthetic to the table. You could roll it, you could throw it and catch it. I was going to say something else about the whole thing and it's slipped my mind. So if I remember it, we'll come back to it. But I do think that this is the kind of talking piece that could be used during COVID. So for whoever asked that question earlier on, just a very simple way. Okay, so here's a feedback circle, and this is obviously a very accomplished group of students. And as you're watching this, if you haven't seen it before, you may be wondering how your students could possibly give this kind of feedback. Well, I think you build up to it. And I'm going to show you a clip from that 3rd grade next, so you can see how they give compliments. And this was all within this one 20-minute lesson. Now, notice that the young men here are just as capable of sharing feelings as the young women. And unfortunately, what we have done to all children, but especially to boys, is to tie showing emotion with weakness. And that is very, very unfortunate, especially in this time where we're supposed to be focusing on social emotional learning. So I just want you to notice that, and as you're watching this one.
All right, everyone. What I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to give feedback to another student sitting in this circle. And by feedback, I want you to say specifically something you noticed that they do that helps them to be successful.
Can I say something about Maggie? Okay, well, Maggie and I are in dance class together, and it's not really the same as school because we don't really see each other in school, but during dance class, Maggie always goes out of her way. If she doesn't get something right away, she asks questions, and then she's really helpful, and she can help me then because I don't get things. And it's really nice to be able to like have that like openness and communication.
Justin, would you mind if I say a few words about you? Go ahead. I think that you've got a great way to manage your life with everything that you have going on with school, with your band, with horseback riding. I think you keep it all, and you have such passion for what you do, and I really appreciate that.
Can I say something about you, Leah? Sure. Like every time I talk to you, you're always nice and you're always going out of your way to help other people, and I think that's really great. Like when we're in the show too, like you're always like behind the scenes, like there, but like always trying to help other people. Yeah, so you're a team player. Thank you.
Dan, may I say a few words? In class, you're focused, but then you can make things very, very light and fun. Like you're a very funny person. You can make jokes, but still like not make it to the point of it being a distraction. And like still make things very, very fun and light, but you still like keep yourself focused and still do good in your classes. And I can really respect that.
Can I say something about Sarah?
Sure.
Sometimes our class is really stressful and people get down on themselves, but Sarah finds a way to find like great things about everybody, and you can just see it on their faces when she compliments them or, lifts their spirits. It's awesome.
Now, just to follow up with this, another question. How did it feel to hear someone say something about you? How did it feel? Try to remember how it felt. Okay.
I think that it was like hearing Nikki say nice things about me made me feel really superb. I use that word. And it was just really nice because I didn't know that she felt how she felt about me, I guess.
It feels nice just to have, affirmation like from your friends that you're on like the right path, that what you're doing is good.
Maggie and I have been friends for a really long time, and we're not really like over the top or mushy about like our feelings and stuff like that. So it's like nice to hear that she like notices those things about me.
Overall, just made me happy. I mean, who doesn't like a compliment or a nice thing said about them? So it just made me really feel good to hear what Justin had to say.
I really look up to Miss Lesko, so it was really incredible to hear that, I could show her something when she shows me so much.
Okay, so you can get the sense. I'll show you the third grade one in a minute, but the question is, how do you do circles in a hybrid situation? Well, I understand that there are different standards. Not every school or district has in some schools, you are not allowed for the students who are in person to see the students who are on the cameras. I don't think that's universal, but whether you go back and forth, so you take a person who's in person and then you go to a person online, and if they're only chatting, you could read out their answer. Or you could have two different circles on the same topic. One that's happening online, you could put kids in a breakout room, whether that's one breakout room or just have them there or in a couple, and do the same thing with the kids who are in person. I don't know. I mean, this is such tough times, and I think we have to think outside the box. If any of you have any suggestions about how you can do this in a hybrid situation, feel free to add it to the chat, because These are tough times. I think that we have to continue to do them even though we're in hybrid situations, because the circle is such a vital part of a positive environment, or creating a positive environment. So you could, if you create a seating plan virtually, it could be of your children every other. One would be face-to-face, one would be online, and so on. So I think we just have to be creative. Okay, the next one is the third grade complement. And I think this is just so special. So here we go.
All right, so speaking of things that are really hard for us to do, I want you all, well, not too hard, but sometimes it can be hard for us. I want you to go around and just say something nice about someone else in this room. Okay? So just some form of praise, right? That will excite the person that hears it, so they can feel a little bit more powerful today.
I would like to say something nice about Angel because she's always smiling and laughing, and when she smiles and laughs, it makes me smile and laugh.
I would like to say something to Zande because the first day I met her, she was sweet and kind and she made me laugh.
I would like to say something nice to all my teachers because the first day I met them, they were so nice and kind, and we got to do a lot of stuff on the first day of school when we started third grade.
I would like to say something to all my classmates because they're always doing their best trying to get a full jar of marbles.
I would like to say something kind about Angel because she's my best friend and she makes me laugh. She's funny, she's smart, and she's kind, and she's the first friend I ever made when I first came to this school.
I'm going to say something about Zania because when she first got here, I thought it was going to be fun to have a new friend and make so many new friends. I'm saying something great about someone. Okay.
When I first came here and we was in a gym, and when everybody told me their name, and when I came in the class for it and I met Angel, I feel like I had another friend like at my old school.
I'm gonna say something nice about Mr. Daniels. Every time he plays guitar, it makes me happy.
I would like to say something nice about everyone in my class because they always try to be good for every days, for all the days.
I would like to say something to Tavon. Every time we had lunch, he always make me laugh with a funny joke.
I'm kind of choking up here. I had something and then you all got me all excited. I want to say something about all of you because I know there are times like as the day goes where things get harder, right? And it just feels like it's really long and a lot of you stick in there, right? And you do your best. And I really like that and I appreciate that.
I want to say something nice about Samaje and Kaylin because they help me a lot and they be there when I need help.
I would like to say something good about Tavon because, no, I want to change. I would like to say something good about Lamar because every time I got my coloring book, I be bored at the table with Davion and Kamari, and we be downstairs in the lunchroom, and he always come over there and ask me, can he color, and I say yes.
I like to say something about Devin because every time we about to read the book, he asks me, can he hold it?
I haven't thought of mine yet.
I like to say nice about Dania and Samaje. Samaje is very nice to me, and Dania is very sweet.
I know that felt really good to me. How do you all feel?
Good.
Good? All right.
Okay, now I know Dahlia says that her kids got much deeper with this as the more they did it. I know sometimes adults are worried that some children will not get a compliment. Notice that Mr. Daniels here is there, and he could take the microphone back at the end, and he could have made a compliment to somebody who didn't get a compliment. You could choose 1 or 2 or 3 students at the beginning of the week and let everybody think about compliments for them. I would keep track, so this is fairly meted out. I have seen the most amazing kindergarten and first grade compliment circles where the child who was being complimented sat in the center of the circle and just kept spinning around to face the person who was giving them a compliment. So again, there are no rules to this game, but it is so important to appreciate one another. And I think this is just a great example. And obviously they've done this before. So they understand it doesn't just happen the first time. Let me mention that when you're first starting circles, there are 3 general things that could happen. Number 1 is that everybody passes. You know, it's just too scary. So everybody passes the first time. Or somebody just repeats what the one next to them said back and forth. That's another common thing that happens. The third thing is that sometimes somebody will get the talking piece and won't let go of it, like they filibuster. And that usually is a sign of a child who doesn't have a voice other places. And once circles become routine, once they know that there will be other opportunities, they tend to let it go, knowing that they'll have a chance to speak and be heard again. Now, if you're just starting out and you're worried that your kids may either completely pass or just repeat what the person before them said, start with something incredibly simple, like say your first name. I mean, you could still pass, but that is so simple. So, or say how old you are or what your birthday is. I mean, just so that the configuration and how it works become clear. So I always say do 100 benign, get to know you, low risk circles before you ever start to do problem solving circles and so on.
Right.
So let's get to problem solving circles. And these are, you know, again, once you've built that community, if you have that strong community, high quality relationships, when harm has been done, you can fix them. So this one I absolutely love. And it is, I think, a kindergarten. It's either kindergarten or first grade. I'm pretty sure it's kindergarten. And it's back to Pinellas, Florida. And you will hear a male voice, Mr. Schultz. He's the principal. He came in to observe. And this is, I think this one is just so precious. And I'll answer a question that sometimes comes up. This was a problem toward the end of 2 children in particular, 2 little girls. But the teacher, Mrs. Healy, talks about the problem up front, and then she asks for a prompt. The kids give her a prompt, and she waits till the very end to talk about the 2 kids who had the problem. Now, when you're doing this, the question is, isn't this singling kids out, unsafe, putting them on the spot? Yes. But I think with 5-year-olds and having very clearly the classroom community built and everybody learning from one another, that it still is okay and safe. But you really have to gauge the age of the kids, how they interact, and so on. One size does not completely fit all, but this one is so cute and wonderful. And notice that just by role modeling, these kids are modeling what the adults are doing. And you can see that really clearly. It usually brings smiles to people's faces. So here we go.
Good morning, guys.
Okay, friends, we're going to start our morning meeting. We had a little bit of difficulty yesterday with some of our friends. Our feelings were getting hurt yesterday because someone was saying they weren't going to be their friend. So what would be a good topic to talk about today so we can fix that and make everybody feel great? What could the topic be today? This meeting, I love seeing all these handsome. Kyrese?
How to be a good friend.
I love it. I love it. How we're going to be a good friend. Okay, so think about how you're going to be a good friend to your friends. We're going to start with Jason.
You can play with them.
You can play with them, yes. Oh, wait a minute. Miss Healy's not running this morning meeting, Miss Healy, Miss Vini. Who can run our morning meeting today? Mr. Schultz wants to see somebody run our morning meeting. Let's see. Laura, do you want to try to run our morning meeting? Yes. Mr. Schultz, we pick somebody to run our morning meetings every day.
Go ahead, Jason.
Wait a minute, before we start, let's tell Mr. Schultz, when somebody needs a little extra time, what do we do with them, Laura?
We say, I'll come back to you.
Okay, just so Mr. Schultz knows. Good. Okay, go ahead, Laura. You're running it, not Miss Healy.
You can play with them. Good. You can show somebody some love. Yes. Tasha. You can share their toys with them.
You can what, sweet thing?
Share their toys with them.
Share toys with them to be a good friend. I love these answers.
I see. You can play with them with puzzles.
Love the answers.
Camille, you can make their heart happy.
How do you make their heart happy? I love that answer. How would you make
their feelings happy?
How can you do that? How can you make them? Thank you. I love that answer.
Kai. Give them kindness and love. Yes. Thomas, Camille. Jonathan. I'll come back to you, Jonathan. You can give your friends if they're sad, you can give them a hug. Nice. You can show them love or show them gifts and sharing stuff.
What could you share, Mouse? I love that. What could you share with them to make them to be a good friend?
Your books.
Thank you. I love that answer.
Vicky. You can how when somebody need help, you can help them.
And that's a different answer. I like that,
That
Victor.
is really great, Victor. You respect them. Nice. That's a good one. Even as different, just like Victor. If they don't know all of our vocabulary words, you can tell them, and you can tell them that you can trust everyone in the school. You could be nice to them. Yes, Demi. You can comfort them.
Wow, I love that.
You say vocabulary.
Comfort them?
Comfort them, Mr. Schultz.
That's one of your vocabulary words?
Yes, that's one of our vocabulary words.
Jordan. You can give them whatever they want. Yes. You can share with the skip chance. You can share with them playing blocks. Nice. You can share the magnets. Yes, Mari. That was a good answer. Thank you. You can share with some puzzles. Right. Miss Healy?
I would say kind words to all my friends. And I would play games with them. And I would give them hugs. And I would help them with whatever they needed help with. And I would be friends with everybody.
Zavini?
I would be friends with everyone. I would make sure that they're happy. I would always comfort them and help them whenever they need help.
Right. My topic is in the morning, I'll help our new friend do their work if they need help. Just in case if they sit at my table.
That is a great answer. Now, Laura, I'm going to add on to that. Remember yesterday, Kaylin, when Demi hurt your feelings, how did that make you feel? Tell Demi how that made you feel.
Sad.
Debbie, how did it make you feel that you hurt Kaylin's feelings? So what would make you feel better, Kaylin, if Debbie what?
If she comforts me.
And how could she do that?
Give her a hug.
Okay. Do you want to give her a hug? Okay. Okay. What could we do every day, friends, to show that we can be a good friend to everybody? Everybody in our room is friends with everybody. What could we show to be a good friend, or what can we do to be a good friend to everybody? So everybody's feelings will be happy. Everybody will have happy hearts. What can we do, James? What can we do?
We could help them with the devices if you don't know how to get on the math game straight.
And what else do we do every day that we could do?
Show somebody some love.
Let's go.
Show somebody some love. Show somebody some love. Do it down now. Show somebody some love. Show somebody some love.
Yay for hearts, right? Yes! Happy hearts! Yeah. Yeah, you feel better, KK? Do you feel better, Demi? Is everybody gonna have a happy heart? Yeah! Everybody's gonna be happy! Everybody, right?
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Schultz?
Perfect, thank you.
Now, I noticed something this time I hadn't really noticed before, and that is that at least one child talked about giving somebody a hug. And so when they got to the problem solving part, noticed that they were using what each other said as a way to solve the problem, give somebody a hug, comfort them, and so on. This is obviously a class that does this every single morning. They don't start this way. Those of you who have the little people, you know that they wiggle all over the place, spin around, and so on and so forth. So it's a good example. I remembered what I was going to say about the ball, using the ball. If you're going to use it to ask questions, you can set any rules you want. When I do it in professional development, whoever catches the ball just has to read the question, whichever thumb they want, and everybody gets to answer it together. You could allow somebody to have the first crack at the question. They could ask phone a friend 3 times, and before they answer, you could do anything you want as long as it's safe and everybody understands the rules. Okay, so let's keep going here. This problem solving circle is with high school students, and notice where they come in. Their affect is very, very negative. And I know that this lasted longer than the 4 minutes this video is, but it's really important to get the sense of where they start and where they go. So even if it's virtual, I think it's very important to solve problems and to use it appropriately. But again, this is not where I'd start. And if you have problems that you want to tackle by using circles, and that's a larger conversation for those of you who haven't had restorative practice training, I think that starting here would very often kill the use of a circle because they're not comfortable with the vulnerability and so on. But anyway, here we go with this one. It's quite short, but I think it makes the point of what the possibilities are.
What we want to do is to explore in what ways people have been affected by what has happened. and hopefully work toward repairing the harm that has resulted. Does everyone here understand that?
And basically it all started because inside the game, we were sitting up at the top and it was at the bottom, and Missy, Chanel was putting up their hair, taking off their earrings and everything. And I felt like they wanted to fight.
I said hi to Katina. We went down there. I turned around and see you taking off your earrings and putting your whatever, put your hair in the ponytail.
My hair was already in the ponytail.
All right, whatever.
Somebody's gonna get hurt. And over what? Words?
I just wish you guys, just if you can't make the peace, just leave each other alone. Don't say nothing to each other.
Girls to be friends, and like if you don't talk to your girlfriend for a long time, after a while y'all just stop talking because you feel like she's saying something like she feeling some way towards you, and then so the other girl feeling the same way, like all right, so maybe she feeling some way towards me. If y'all would at least just said hi to each other, like one of the days out of all the times that y'all seen each other, maybe y'all would have been friends again. But it never happened. That's why y'all stopped talking and y'all stopped being friends.
I know you say you don't know why, and she says you don't know why. Can I ask this question? How did it feel? Not why, but how did it feel that she was no longer talking to you?
I don't know, at first it hurt, but we wasn't talking, but then I got over it. I got new friends.
But it hurt initially.
Yeah.
How difficult would it be to say like, yo, do you want to be friends again? You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's getting down to the real deal. Like, yo, can we be friends again and be real with it and be okay with it? You know what I'm saying?
Xavier, I'm sorry if you felt like just because I was with this person, I don't know if you felt offended that I had new friends, or I don't know how I made you feel at a certain time. But my point is, if you felt like I was dissing you or whatever you want to call it, then you should have came to me.
So it was my fault. I stopped talking to y'all. I'm sorry, you guys. Do you guys want to be my friends?
She said, do you guys want to be?
What did you hear, experience, do here today that you didn't expect? In other words, what are you taking with you?
I can go home and sleep tonight and ain't got to worry about Chanel walking down the street getting jumped by 4 or 5 girls over something that happened at the Pepsi.
I'm happy that it ended the way we did.
I didn't expect to leave here feeling like I have a load off my shoulders.
And I learned like you can't hold a grudge, because if you do, you just gonna be doing that all the time.
Basically, it was a bunch of stuff that was not supposed to be happening that happened for no reason.
Just say it out loud.
And I'm happy now because, like Katina said, we can actually go out without having the problems. I can get cute in the summertime, walk wherever I want to walk without having to worry about something happening while I'm walking down the block.
The atmosphere in this room right now is a whole lot better than when I walked in earlier. I mean, there was a lot of tension. And now, everything can be resolved, and I'm proud of all you guys too.
Okay, so that's and at any point after the fact, if any of you have any specific questions about these things and how you conduct them and when and so on, feel free to shoot them my way. But here, okay, games. You can play games in a circle, they're fun. But when you Google circle games, recreation books, whatever, but when playing games, especially those that are physical, be mindful of inclusion issues and any physical or emotional limitations of students, and that competition is kept within fun and reasonable boundaries. So this is the kind of thing right now you might do on a mass break. When you're outside, there's all kinds of games you can use. Some of them were the kinds of things we would do when we were in preschool and so on. Instead of saying stand up if your hair is black, cross the circle. Cross the circle. I've seen little ones with smiles on their face, meet in the middle, no damage done, go to the other side. So there's all kinds of circles you can play. And I encourage you to do that because getting up and having a brain break is so very important. They had a little bit of time in their class here. This is very short, but they're going to play a game. He'll explain it. And they've played this game before. And at one point, one of the students forgets part of the ritual of the game, and he reminds them. But it's great. So here we go, real quick.
Okay, so we do have some time. We never have time. You want to do another game?
Yeah.
Jump in my boat.
Yeah, no, jump in my boat if you like spending Robux on Roblox. Everybody in my boat go woo 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 woo. Throw me in my boat. example, if you like Vans. Vans?
Huh?
Do you know the,
You gotta say everybody in the book.
oh, everybody go in my book go whoop, 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 whoop.
So,
Okay, that's just a very simple, what did it take? Less than a minute. All right. So anything that you can do with kids, you can do with adults. And I encourage people to think outside the box, especially for things like PPTs that can be so stress inducing. You know, why can't we all walk in together? Why can't we create norms together? Why can't all the educators put their stacks of folders next to them and so on, so that it really can be less intimidating. So I just want to mention that. So here's a fishbowl, and the question earlier, how can we do circles when we're face to face? But we have to be socially, or excuse me, physically distanced and so on. A fishbowl is where you have an inner circle of kids or adults, and you have an outer circle of folks who are observing. So if you have a bigger group, it looks more like this. So whichever one that you want to use, notice that it says an optional empty chair. I love empty chairs because it allows anybody from outside the circle to come into the circle, make a comment and leave. Now the inner circle have to speak loud enough so that everybody from the outer circle can hear. And they also have to be very mindful that whoever's talking, and you could do this with a talking piece, without a talking piece, sequential, non-sequential, you know, again, use it in any way you want. But who's ever talking, if somebody enters the circle, sits down, the inner circle group would have to have the empty chair person speak next so that they can get up and leave. And it really is a rotating chair. I like the empty chair because it does give folks on the outside a reason to pay attention in case they may want to participate. So I am not going to read this slide to you because I just described what the empty chair is, but I do want you to know what it's for, so that, again, you don't have to have it, but I always think it's a very good thing to do. So if you want to have, if we're all on face-to-face, I think it was Rita who asked that question, I might have a physically distant inner circle and everybody else sitting on the whole parameter so that it is still safe. And then you could switch it up or have kids come in and join the empty chair. That's another way to do it. And you can do it with any kind of topic you wish. Have I used fishbowls in a virtual environment? Well, sort of. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you have to close your eyes and pretend it's a fishbowl, but I've put people in breakout rooms, and then sort of that's a way to have one circle here, and then we make comments after the fact, but there's no reason why you can't do that. So here is, we mentioned at the very beginning about concentric circles for discussions. And I like this a lot because if you have an even number of students, you don't have to participate, but if you have an odd number, you can participate. And this is a great one where you could put pairs in breakout rooms, and then you could take them back, and then you could switch the groups and so on. So here is what this looks like face to face, where you have an inner circle of students, those are the blue ones, facing the outer circle of students. So it's a one-to-one correspondence. Now you pose a question such as, what is something you learned today? Or what is a question you still have? And then you can go for a certain amount of time. If you are face-to-face, you could switch a light or ring a bell or something like that. If you were in breakout rooms, you could end the breakout rooms and then have everybody come back. Then if you were face-to-face, you could say, all right, inner circle, this time you move 3 to the left. And then you have a new partner, could be the same question, could be a different question. Next time it could be, okay, outer circle, you move 1 to the right. So again, you're getting different partners. Now this is the kind of noise that is very productive. It doesn't get out of hand. I've done it many, many times with students as well as with adults. And it's just a great way to get people up and moving, and everybody's talking and listening at the same time. Okay, so this is the cover of the Baltimore monograph. You can see it's very recent. And I know that Karen has already posted it there. It is just phenomenal. And it has hot links in it to so many great videos. I just happened to pull from that one, but they probably have 20 different video clips, missteps around make sure that you're doing a whole framework thing, you're working on building a positive climate and so on. So I think this is just an excellent, excellent guide and sort of confirmation that this done properly really works. So when you start looking at what restorative classrooms and schools are like, they're equitable, they're destinations for everybody, they're welcoming and safe. And I would hope that as we get on the other side of COVID and we go forward, we don't go back. I think many of the things that we did before COVID were marching toward losing the fact that we're teaching children, young people, and that they need to have their thoughts and ideas and their academics improve. But I think that we have not focused quite enough on the whole child. And I hope we don't lose that, because I can tell you from personal experience, from a heck of a lot of research, that when schools lead with restorative practices as a framework, which means prioritizing high quality relationship building and community, when that is their theory of action for overall school improvement, that's when all the beans, academics, attendance, suspension, they all move in the direction you want. So it's very, very important. I don't think we have a choice anymore that classrooms, schools, districts should become truly restorative. So I've ended with this. We have a few minutes for some reflections or questions, but this is our contact information. And I can see that my colleague who recently became the interim superintendent in Lebanon, which is why she's not here today. Maybe I don't know, Pat, if you're there, feel free to jump in. We do this together. We created this together. So I can leave it here. And does anybody have any reflections or thoughts or questions before we have to go in a few minutes? Either funnel them in through questions, comments, anything. Rosie, I don't know if you have any.
I think we've been doing them all along the way, so I don't see any more coming in. Although I would ask you, Joanne, if people are getting started with doing circles or restorative practices, especially in a virtual setting, what 3 recommendations might you have for them as they get started? And maybe one thing that you feel would be the most important strategy skill for them to continue to work on as they continue to work in a virtual setting?
Well, I would think first and foremost, I don't know if I can count to 3, Rosie, but I think it's important that whatever environment, whether it's complete face-to-face, hybrid, or virtual, that it be safe. And I think that, we want to encourage kids to be as engaged as they possibly can. But for some kids, turning on a camera or a microphone is a little bit risky. So I think that safety above all else. I also think as a strategy that if you're having, I don't want to say trouble, but you're trying to encourage kids to, put down their phones, turn on their cameras, whatever, bring it to them. Ask them what is the impact of not having your camera on, or not answering a question, or showing up late. I think all too often we try to tell them what to do as opposed to bringing the issue or the question to them. So I think that's important. I also think that establishing your own routines or rituals around how to do this work is really important. And I will also say that, and I think I'm beyond 3 here, but it's very important to get trained. It's great to look at, a 2-hour webinar on circles and how to do circles, but unless you fully understand what's behind all of this, I think sometimes it's haphazard. So I would, we certainly provide training. It's translated very well virtually. and be more than happy to talk with anybody about that. But whether it's just restorative training or school climate training as well as restorative training, we know that the districts and schools that have embraced this are really in a qualitatively better place than those that haven't. I do want to caution you that if you take a narrow sense and you're just thinking, well, we got too high suspensions and detentions, so let's just discipline different. Please don't call that working restoratively, because it is in name only. It's about truly embracing the entire framework. So I don't know, Rosie, if that's what you're looking for, more specific strategies, but
I think that sums it up really well, Joanne. The other piece I would add, and I know you said it throughout, is that this is not, you can't just do it one time and think that you're doing well. It builds and it builds and it builds, and it takes a lot of practice, and it takes building those relationships, which are really, really important. Trust comes along with that in order to make sure that everybody gets comfortable. So it's not you can't think that you've done it once or twice and now you're ready to get into restorative, and you can't think that, I mean, it doesn't take much for it to go backwards. So it's constantly building those relationships and doing those, what I think are the fun kind of circles where you're asking what's your favorite ice cream, or what is, your favorite color, or what did you do over the weekend, or those kinds of things, in order to get to know each other and to continue to build those relationships. So I would just add that piece in.
yes, I appreciate your punctuating that. And I would also say, trust the process. Be patient and trust the process. This is not a program. This is not a curriculum. They're not a set of lessons. Yes, there are strategies, circles being one of them, but that's not all. And if you stick with it and you're true to it and working with your students, with your colleagues, which is what this is all about, you will see phenomenal gains. So.
Great. So Joanne, I just want to say I always learn so much from you every time I listen to you. I want to thank you so much for being here today. And please tell Pat I'm glad she was here, even though we didn't really see her or hear from her. It was nice to see her name pop up. So I know she's really busy, and we're glad that she's working in Lebanon to help those students. Today, you've given us so much to think about and some powerful tools and ideas that we can use to put in our toolbox, as you always say, when we're working with our students, even either remotely, in person, or in a hybrid situation, especially during these crazy times that we're living through because of the pandemic. We greatly appreciate you sharing your expertise with us, and we encourage people to visit your website, which is schoolclimateconsultants.com, for more information about safe and positive school climates, restorative practices, and or to be able to contact you and or Pat about the work that you are doing in Connecticut and across the country. So thank you so much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Once again, I want to thank our corporate partners, Jostens, Horace Mann, Liberty Bank, the Connecticut Army National Guard, and Pullman and Cumley for helping to make this webinar possible. We thank them for their continuing support of CAS professional development webinars for all principals and educators in Connecticut. And just a reminder that on next Tuesday, February 2nd, CAS will be hosting a special roundtable conversation, Safe and Positive Climate Policy Implementations, with a panel of 6 experts from 9:30 to 11. We hope you'll join us for that webinar. And for other webinars and CAS activities and events, please check our website at www.CAS-CIAC.org. Again, a special thanks to Ann Freiberg for sharing her expertise with us today, and to everyone who joined us for this webinar. Stay safe, stay well, take care, and enjoy the rest of your day.